Hearken, O soul, and lend thine ear to the silence. Thou askest why the same sorrows visit thee time and again? Why dost thou feel a longing that no earthly pleasure can satisfy? Know this truth immediately, before we begin our journey. The invisible chains of karma that bind thee are not a curse, but a promise waiting to be fulfilled. I tell thee now, the heavy burden of past lives can be transcended, and thy spirit can be set free. This tale I weave is not of despair, but of the moment the heavens and earth align to answer thy deep longing. It is the story of the ancient covenant thou madest before thy birth, and how thou mayest turn thy greatest trial into a beacon of light. Art thou ready to remember what thy soul hath truly chosen? Do not turn away, for by the end of this discourse, the fog shall lift, and a new path shall open before thy feet. Let us walk this path together. Chapter 1: The Circle of Sorrow. O, thou who wanderest through the mists of this fleeting world, stay thy feet a moment. Hearken to my voice, for I speak to the weariness that lieth heavy within thy chest. Thou hast felt it, hast thou not? That strange, inexplicable sensation that seizeth thee when thou least expectest it. It is a shadow that creepeth upon thee in the silence of the night, a whisper that saith, "Here we are again." I speak of the circle of sorrow, the wheel of repetition from which there seemeth to be no escape. Tell me, O weary traveler, why doth the same thorn pierce thy side, time and time again? Thou strivest with all thy might to flee from pain. Thou chongest thy dwelling place, hoping for a fresh wind to blow. Thou leavest a job that brought thee nothing but grief, thinking, surely, in a new land, under a new master, I shall find peace. Yet, marvel at this cruel jest of fate. In the new place, amidst new faces, dost thou not find the same old enemy waiting for thee? Perchance the face is different, the name is new, but the malice, the coldness, the trial is the very same as that which thou didst flee. It is as if a ghost from the past hath donned a new mask to haunt thee once more. Why must it be so? Thou criest out to the heavens, have I not suffered enough? Why is this cup passed to me again? Thy heart trembles, not merely with fear, but with a deep, ancient confusion. It is a sense of déjà vu, a feeling that thou hast walked this barren road before. Thou meetest a stranger for the very first time, yet thy soul recoils, or perhaps, thy heart aches with a nostalgia that brings tears to thine eyes. Logic cannot explain it, reason falls silent before it, but thy soul knows. Thy soul remembers the heat of the fire, even if thy mind hath forgotten the flame. Consider the patterns in thy life. Look closely at the tapestry thou hast woven. Dost thou see the recurring threads of betrayal? Or perhaps the dark knots of abandonment? Maybe thou art plagued by a fear that hath no name, a trembling that overtakes thee when thou standest before others. Thou thinkest these are but random misfortunes, scattered like dry leaves by the wind. Nay, I say unto thee, they are not random. The heavens do not play dice with thy tears. This repetition, this relentless return to the same battlefield, is the reality of thy existence in this realm. It is the ring of fate closing in upon thee. But listen closely, and let not thy heart be troubled overmuch. I do not speak these words to cast thee into the pit of despair. I speak them to awaken thee. For to heal a sickness, one must first admit that the sickness exists. To break the chains, one must first see that one is bound. Most men walk through life asleep, thinking their suffering is but bad luck, a roll of the dice gone wrong. They blame the neighbor, they blame the times, they blame the stars. But thou art different. Thou art here, listening to this voice, because thou sensest a deeper truth. Thou suspectest that this cycle is not a punishment from a cruel tyrant, but a riddle demanding to be solved. Hast thou ever wondered why the storm rageth fiercest just before the dawn? Why the night is darkest when the morning star is about to rise? The repetition of thy sorrow is a sign. It is a loud knocking at the door of thy soul. The universe is shouting unto thee, trying to arrest thy attention. Imagine a child who refuses to learn his lesson. Doth the teacher not present the same book again and again until the page is understood? So it is with the spirit. The pain thou feelest is the friction of a lesson unlearned, a promise unkept. It returns because it loves thee too much to let thee remain in ignorance. But oh, how heavy is the burden! I know thy fatigue. I see the tears thou hiddest from the world. Thou askest, is there no end to this? Must I walk this treadmill until my spirit breaks? Nay, my friend, the spirit does not break, it only slumbers and awakens. And thou art on the brink of a great awakening. The very fact that thou art aware of this cycle, the very fact that thou feelest the pain of this circle of sorrow, is proof that thou art ready to transcend it. If thou wert truly lost, thou wouldst not feel the constraint of the rope. Only he who struggles against the bonds knows he is tied. Thy struggle is thy nobility. Thy pain is the cracking of the shell that encloses thy understanding. So, I ask thee now, stand firm in the midst of thy whirlwind. Look at the chaos in thy life not with fear, but with the eyes of a witness. Acknowledge the storm. Say unto it, I see thee. I know thee. Thou art the shadow of my past, returned. Do not run this time. Do not close thine eyes. For in the chapters to come, we shall unravel the mystery of why this circle exists. We shall discover the ancient covenant that binds thee to this path. But for now, simply breathe. Breathe into the pain. Accept that the cycle is spinning. For even the longest winter must eventually yield to spring. Hold fast, for the journey hath only just begun, and thou art stronger than thou knowest. Chapter 2: The Mirror of Pain. Come closer, my friend, for now we must speak of a matter that is tender to the touch. We have spoken of the circles of life, but what of the people who inhabit them? Is it not strange? Among the thousands of faces thou passest in the street, why doth one single face hold the power to shatter thy peace? I speak of the mysteries of human connection, the bonds that tie us, the knots that choke us, and the threads that seem impossible to break. Thou knowest well of whom I speak. Perchance it is a person thou met but yesterday, yet their eyes hold a familiarity that reaches into the very marrow of thy bones. Who art thou? Thy soul whispers. Have we not loved before? Have we not fought before? There is no logic in this. Reason would tell thee, he is but a stranger, or she is merely a colleague. Yet, thy heart races, thy palms sweat, and a storm of emotion, be it sudden love or sudden revulsion, sweeps through thee like a gale. This is the uncanny connection. It is the ghost of a memory, seeking to be heard. Consider the torment of those thou canst not leave, and who will not leave thee. Think upon the relationships that bring thee more tears than laughter. Why dost thou stay? Why do they return? Perhaps thou hast a master at thy work, a tyrant who delights in finding fault with thee. Thou goest home each night, weary and wounded, vowing to find a place where thou art valued. So, thou leavest. Thou findest a new trade, a new guild. But lo and behold, within a moon's turn, a new tyrant appears, wearing a different face but speaking with the same cruel tongue. Is this bad fortune? Nay, it is the mirror of pain, walking towards thee on two legs. Let me tell thee a story of a soul I once knew. He was a man of gentle heart, yet he was betrayed by a friend he trusted as a brother. The pain cut deep, like a knife in the dark. He vowed never to trust again, to build a wall of stone around his heart. Years passed, and he moved to a distant town. There, he met another, a man who smiled with warmth and spoke with kindness. Slowly, the wall came down. Slowly, the trust returned. And then, the blow fell. This new friend, too, turned against him, stealing not his gold, but his faith in mankind. The man cried out to the heavens, "Why am I cursed? Why are all men traitors?" But the heavens were not silent. They whispered back, "Look not at them. Look at the wound they touch. For here is a hard truth, one that may sting like salt on a fresh cut. The people who disturb thee most, the ones who stir up thy anger, thy jealousy, thy deepest grief, They are not merely tormentors sent to ruin thy day. They are mirrors. They reflect that which lies hidden within thine own soul. They show thee the parts of thyself that are yet unhealed, the lessons that are yet unlearned. If thou wert truly free of fear, the tyrant could not frighten thee. If thou wert truly whole, the betrayer could not break thee. They have power over thee only because they hold a key to a door thou hast locked and forgotten. Thou sayest, but they are wrong. Their deeds are wicked. Yea, their deeds may indeed be wicked. I do not excuse their sin. But we are not speaking of their judgment, we are speaking of thy liberation. As long as thou pointest the finger outward, blaming the mirror for the ugly reflection, thou remainest a prisoner. The mirror does not create the image, it only reveals it. These difficult souls are the unwitting messengers of destiny. They are actors upon the stage of thy life, playing the villain so that thou mightest learn how to be the hero. They press upon thy bruises until thou criest out, not to hurt thee, but to show thee where the healing is needed. Oh, it is a bitter medicine to swallow, to think that the source of thy pain is also the map to thy freedom. But take heart, thou art not alone in this fiery furnace. Every soul that walks this earth carries such burdens. We are all polishing one another, rubbing against each other's rough edges until we become smooth stones. Sometimes the friction is unbearable. Sometimes thou wishest only to flee to a mountaintop and live in solitude. But the mirror would find thee even there, in the silence of thine own mind. So, when next thou feelest that surge of inexplicable emotion towards another, pause. Before thou reactest with the old anger, the old tears, take a breath. Ask thyself, what is this soul trying to show me? What ancient promise are we fulfilling? Thou needest not have the answer today. It is enough to ask the question. It is enough to realize that this encounter is not an accident, but a divine appointment. The pain is real, yea, but it is not purposeless. It is the breaking of the shell. It is the labor pain of a new understanding trying to be born. Hold fast to this thought, for the night is long, but thou hast a light within thee. The people who hurt thee are but shadows passing in the mist. Thou art the mountain that remains. In the chapters to come, we shall see how these very encounters were scripted by thine own hand before thou tookest breath. We shall uncover the why behind the who. But for now, look into the mirror without fear. See the pain, acknowledge it, and know that it cannot destroy thee. It can only refine thee, like gold in the fire. Thou art worthy of love, thou art worthy of peace, and thou shalt find them, not by running away, but by walking through. Chapter 3: The Ancient Covenant. Lift thine eyes now, O seeker of truth. Raise thy gaze from the muddy roads of the earth to the high, crystalline halls of the Spirit. We have spoken of the sorrow that circles thee, and the mirrors that torment thee. But to understand the reason, we must journey back before thy first breath, back before thy mother's womb, back to the time when thou wert but a speck of pure light floating in the vast ocean of the divine. Here lies the secret of the ancient covenant. Listen closely, for this is the foundation of all that befalls thee. The world believeth that birth is a beginning, an accident of biology. But the law knoweth otherwise. Before thou didst descend into this heavy coat of flesh, thou stoodest in the presence of the great silence. Thou lookedest down upon the earth, seeing the myriad paths of joy and sorrow. And in that place of clarity, where no shadow hides the truth, thou didst choose thy path. Yea, hear me well, thou didst choose it. It was not a tyrant who forced this burden upon thy shoulders. It was not a cruel judge who sentenced thee to this life of trials. It was thine own soul, brave and eager for growth, that signed the contract. This is the covenant of the soul. Thou west the weaknesses thou carried from lives past, the anger uncontrolled, the love unexpressed, the courage that failed in the moment of need. And thou sightest unto the heavens. Let me go down once more. Let me face the fire again, that this time, I may become gold. There is a teaching, deep and profound, that echoes the vision of the mystic Onisaburo. It speaks of the soul's unquenchable thirst for elevation. A soul in the spirit realm is pure, yet it yearns to be tested. For how can one know courage without fear? How can one know forgiveness without injury? How can one know true light without the experience of deep darkness? Therefore, the soul seeks resistance. Just as a muscle grows strong only by lifting a heavy weight, thy spirit chose the weight of this life to build its divine strength. But here is where the children of men often stumble in their understanding. Many think of destiny, or karma, as a romantic thread, a red string that leads only to lovers and sweet reunions. They dream of soulmates as those who bring only comfort and bliss. Ah, what a soft and fragile illusion! The law of heaven is not so sentimental. The covenant is stern. It is precise. It touches the very root of thy being. Most of the promises thou madest were not for happiness as men define it, not for ease, not for wealth, not for the applause of the crowd. They were promises of completion. Didst thou leave a lesson of trust unfinished in a bygone age? Then, by the terms of thy covenant, thou must be placed in a life where trust is broken, so that thou mayest learn to build it from the ashes. Didst thou fail to learn compassion, because thou wert too proud? Then, thou hast chosen a life of humility, perhaps even of poverty or sickness, to learn the softness of the heart. The unfinished learning inevitably takes a shape in this world. It creates a vacuum that pulls in the very experiences thou wishest to avoid. Think upon the specific trials that plague thee. Why art thou so afraid to speak thy truth? Why doth thy throat close and thy heart pound when thou standest before others? Perchance, in a time long forgotten, thy words cost thee thy life, or the lives of those thou loved. Thou vowedest then, I shall never speak again. But the covenant of this life says, thou must speak. Thou must overcome. Thus, the situation repeats. The stage is set again. The actors are different, the costumes have changed, but the script is the same one thou leftest unread on the table of eternity. And what of love? What of that painful longing? The bond that ties thee to another is often a contract of resolution. Thou didst agree with that difficult soul before either of you took form. I will play the betrayer, said he, so that thou canst learn forgiveness. I will play the one who leaves, said she, so that thou canst find thine own worth within, not without. It is a play, a sacred drama, written by your own hands in the ink of starlight. When thou seest it thus, doth it not change the color of thy suffering? It is not meaningless cruelty. It is a promise being kept. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, never brings a person to thee without cause. It never allows a storm to break over thy head unless the rain is needed for thy harvest. The divine logic is flawless. If thou art facing a wall today, it is because thou hast the tools in thy spiritual satchel to climb it. Thou mayest have forgotten where thou put them, but they are there. The covenant ensures that the challenge never exceeds the potential of the soul. So, I ask thee, O traveler, canst thou look at thy life and see the architecture of thine own choice? Canst thou stop cursing the rain and ask instead, what seed did I plant that needs this water? To realize this is to step out of the role of the victim and into the seat of the master. Thou art not a leaf blown by the wind of chance. Thou art the wind itself. Thou art the ancient light that dared to descend into the shadow. But a question arises in thy mind, does it not? If I chose this, thou askest, if I am the author of this script, why do I not remember? Why must I grope in the dark, blind and confused, if I once saw so clearly? This, too, is part of the design. This, too, is a necessary mercy. For if thou knewest all, the test would be no test at all. In the next chapter, we shall descend from the high courts into the mystery of the flesh. We shall speak of the fog of forgetfulness, and why the memory of thy promise must be hidden to be fulfilled. But for this moment, let this truth settle in thy bones. Thou art here on a mission of thine own making, and the promise thou madest to the heavens is about to be called due. Stand tall, for the contract is valid, and the fulfillment is nigh. Chapter 4: The Fog of Forgetfulness. Step softly now, for we enter the chamber of silence. We have ascended to the heights to see the contract, but now we must descend into the clay of the earth. The question burneth in thy mind, doth it not? If I am the master of my fate, thou criest, why am I so blind? Why hath the Creator stripped me of my map? It is a fair question. A question asked by every soul that hath ever looked up at the silent stars and felt abandoned. But hearken to the wisdom of the law. The forgetting is not a robbery, it is a gift. Imagine, if thou wilt, a soul descending from the realms of light. It carries the scroll of the ancient covenant, the list of lessons to be learned, forgiveness, courage, self-love. But as it draws near to the heavy atmosphere of the earth, as it prepares to enter the tiny, fragile vessel of the infant body, a veil is drawn. This is the fog of forgetfulness. The flesh is dense, it is made of the dust of the ground, and it covers the brilliant eye of the spirit like a thick curtain. When thou talkest thy first breath, the memories of the high courts fade into the background, leaving thee with a clean slate. Why must this be? Consider this well. If thou remembered everything, where would be the virtue in thy choice? If thou knewest, with absolute certainty, that the man standing before thee was the very soul who murdered thee in a past life, how wouldst thou act? Wouldst thou not recoil in terror? Or surely, thou wouldst draw thy sword in vengeance before he could speak a word. But thy task in this life is not vengeance, it is forgiveness. If thou rememberest the crime, thou art a prisoner of the past. But because thou forgettest, thou seest him only as a difficult man, a challenge to thy patience. This ignorance gives thee a sacred space, a space to choose differently this time. It preserves thy free will. Without the fog, thou wouldst be a puppet of thy history. With the fog, thou art a creator of thy destiny. The test has value only because the answers are hidden from the student's eye. Therefore, do not curse the darkness. It is the darkness of the soil that allows the seed to sprout. Thou art buried in this life so that thou mayest grow towards a light thou canst feel but cannot see. And yet, is the forgetting truly complete? Nay, it is never absolute. The covenant is etched not in the brain, which perishes, but in the soul, which is eternal. And because it is there, deep within, it sends up signals. The fog is thick, but light pierces through. Have there not been moments in thy life when the veil seemed to thin? I speak of those times when a strange hush falls upon thy heart. Thou seest a sequence of numbers, perhaps 1111, or a date that haunts thee, appearing again and again, like a relentless messenger knocking at thy gate. Why these numbers? Why now? Or perhaps thou enterest a place thou hast never visited, yet thy feet know the way, and the air smells of a home long lost. This is the echo of the covenant. It is the spirit world whispering to thee, wake up, the time is near. And what of those sudden waves of emotion that have no earthly cause? Thou art sitting in peace, and suddenly a grief so ancient, so profound, washes over thee that thou weepest without reason. Or a fear grips thee when the sun goes down, a terror of something thou canst not name. The world calls this madness. The world calls it anxiety. But I tell thee, it is memory. It is the bleeding through of the past. Thy soul is remembering the fire, the loss, the promise, even if thy mind is blank. These are not symptoms of sickness, they are the stirring of the giant within. The promise is demanding to be kept. Many ignore these signs. They drown the whispers with noise, with wine, with busy work. It is just my imagination, they say. But thou must not turn away. These signs are the breadcrumbs leading thee back to the path thou chosest. When thy heart is restless, when thy chest feels tight with an inexplicable longing, it is because the 0 hour approaches. The moment of confronting the task is at hand. And remember, the covenant is not always about another person. Often, the deepest promise is the one thou madest to thyself. Didst thou vow, in the next life, I will not abandon myself? Then, in this life, thou shalt face situations where everyone demands that thou sacrifice thy needs for theirs. The pressure will be immense. The fog will make thee think, I must please them to be good. But the signal from within will scream, no. Stand firm. That internal conflict is the battleground of the promise. Didst thou vow, I will learn to receive love, then thou mayest find thyself alone, or with those who cannot give, until thou learnest that thou art worthy simply because thou existest. Oh, the wisdom of the fog! It forces thee to find the truth not in books, not in memories, but in the raw experience of the now. It forces thee to feel, for only by feeling the pain, the fear, the hesitation, canst thou truly transmute it. If it were just a memory, it would be a story. But because it is thy life, it is a transformation. So, I ask thee to look at the confusion in thy life with new eyes. The fog is not there to blind thee forever. It is there to focus thy gaze on the one thing that matters, the choice thou makest in this moment. The signs are increasing. The numbers, the dreams, the coincidences, they are the drumbeats of destiny. Something is coming. The promise is moving towards its fulfillment. Art thou listening? Canst thou hear the call? In the next chapter, we shall see what happens when the fog begins to lift violently. We shall speak of the storm that shakes the foundations of thy life just before the promise is kept. But fear not, for even in the fog, thou art guided. Trust the whispers, they know the way. Chapter 5: The Tremor Before Dawn. Brace thyself, O soul, for the wind is rising. We have spoken of the fog that hides the path, but now the fog is being torn asunder by a violent gale. Dost thou feel the ground trembling beneath thy feet? Art thou looking at thy life in this very moment and seeing only ruins? Perhaps thou art standing amidst the wreckage of a sudden separation. Perhaps the work of thy hands, which thou didst labor over for years, hath crumbled into dust overnight. Or perchance a sickness of the body or a turmoil of the mind hath struck thee down when thou felt most secure. Hearken to me, for this is the most critical message I shall deliver unto thee. Do not close thine eyes in terror. Do not turn thy back on the storm, for this chaos, this absolute upheaval, is the sign thou hast been waiting for. It is the tremor before dawn. The world tells thee that calamity is a sign of failure. They say, look, he hath lost his way, or she is being punished for her sins. But the law of heaven speaks a different language. In the spiritual realm, a great shaking is the herald of a great opening. The shell must break before the bird can fly. The tower must fall before the temple can be built. Consider the promise of the ancient covenant. When a contract is about to be fulfilled, when a heavy karmic debt is about to be paid in full, the universe demands a clearing. The old structures, the relationships that drained thee, the habits that bound thee, the false identities thou wearest like a mask, cannot enter the new world that awaits thee. The light is coming, and it is coming with such intensity that anything which cannot hold the light must be burned away. Therefore, the destruction thou seest is not an act of malice. It is an act of aggressive mercy. It is the hand of destiny sweeping the table clean to prepare a feast. Thou askest, why must it be so painful? Why must everything happen at once? Yea, it often comes in waves, does it not? One trouble follows another like wolves in a pack. First the friend betrays, then the purse is empty, then the body weakens. Thou criest out, I can bear no more. But this concentration of trials is proof that the quickening has begun. Thy soul is accelerating. It is rushing towards the finish line of a marathon that has lasted for lifetimes. The closer thou art to the breakthrough, the steeper the mountain becomes. There is a phenomenon known to the wise, a pattern that often occurs in this phase. It is the great return. Hast thou found thyself forced back into a situation thou thoughtest thou hadst escaped forever? Maybe thou didst flee a certain city, vowing never to return, yet circumstances have dragged thee back. Maybe thou didst swear to leave a profession that withered thy spirit, yet necessity compels thee to take up the tools once more. Thou sayest, I am going backwards. I am failing. Nay, thou art not going backwards. Thou art returning to the scene of the crime, not as a victim, but as a master. The universe says, face it one last time. Show me that thou art no longer the same frightened child. This repetition is the final exam. And because thou art different now, stronger, wiser, more aware, thou shalt not be crushed by it. Thou shalt walk through it and dissolve it. I see the fear in thine eyes. It is the fear of the end. Thou feelest that if thou lettest go now, thou shalt fall into an abyss. But listen to the wisdom of the natural world. Does the caterpillar not feel that its world is ending when it wraps itself in the tomb of the cocoon? Its body dissolves, its form is lost. To the caterpillar, it is death. But to the master of life, it is the birth of the butterfly. The end thou fearest is simply the end of the illusion. It is the end of the small self that was defined by fear and limitation. Let me speak to the heaviness in thy heart, that nameless anxiety, that agitation that allows thee no rest. Thou wackest in the night, heart pounding, feeling that something is terribly wrong. Or thou walkest through the day with a sense of urgency, a feeling that this cannot go on. That internal scream is the voice of the covenant. It is the spirit breaking the chains of inertia. It is the final resistance of the ego before it surrenders to the flow of the river. Do not medicate this feeling away. Do not suppress it. Sit with it. Let the fire burn. For in the heat of that fire, the gold is being separated from the dross. Remember the words of the ancient sages. The darkest hour is just before the sunrise. Why is it darkest? Because the moon has set, and the sun has not yet risen. Thou art in the void between two worlds. The old world is dead, but the new world is not yet born. This is the sacred gap. It requires a courage that few possess, the courage to stand in the dark and trust that the light is coming. But thou possessest this courage. I know it, for thou art still standing. Thou art still listening. So, when the storm rages, when the winds howl and the walls shake, do not cower in the corner. Stand up, walk to the window of thy soul. Look out at the chaos and say, blow, winds, shake, earth, I know what thou art. Thou art the fanfare of my liberation. Thou art the crumbling of the prison walls. Rejoice, even amidst thy tears. For if the night is this black, the morning must be glorious indeed. The promise is almost kept. The debt is almost paid. The tremor is not the end of thy story, it is the drumroll for the climax. Hold on, just a little longer. Hold on, for in the next chapter, the wind shall suddenly cease. The noise shall fade, and thou shalt find thyself standing in a silence so profound, so beautiful, that thou shalt understand why thou hadst to endure the storm. The great silence awaits thee. Art thou ready to receive the peace that passes all understanding? Chapter 6: The Silence of Completion. Peace, be still. Canst thou feel it? The wind that howled but a moment ago hath ceased. The earth that shook beneath thy feet hath settled into a stillness deep as the ocean floor. Open thine eyes, O survivor of the storm. We have passed through the valley of the shadow, and now we stand in the clearing of the great completion. This is the moment the ancient covenant is fulfilled. It does not always come with the blast of trumpets or the applause of multitudes. Nay, the truest sign of God's work is silence. It is a silence that rings in the ears, a peace that washes over the soul like cool water after a fever. Let us look upon the landscape of thy life now that the contract is paid. What are the signs that the karmic knot hath been untied? The first sign is the unbinding of the heart. Think of that person, the one who occupied thy thoughts day and night, the one whose name tasted like vinegar in thy mouth. For years, thou wert bound to them by chains of anger, or cords of desperate longing. Thou didst try to cut the bond with the sword of will, but it would not break. But look now, suddenly, without effort, the chain falls from thy wrist. Thou thinkest of them, and nothing, no surge of rage, no pang of regret, no desire to call, nor desire to flee. It is as if they have become a figure in a painting, visible, yet flat and distant. The drama has ended. The actors have left the stage. This is not coldness, my friend. It is freedom. The lesson they were sent to teach is learned, and so the teacher is released. The second sign is the neutrality of the wound. This is a test thou canst perform upon thyself. Imagine the situation that once brought thee to thy knees. Perhaps it was the fear of poverty or the sting of criticism. Before, a harsh word would have sent thee spiraling into darkness for days. But now, the same word is spoken, the same situation arises. And thou standest unmoved. Thou observest it as one observes a passing cloud. Ah, thou sayest, there is a cloud. Thou art not indifferent, thou art healed. A wound that is open screams when touched. A wound that has become a scar has tough skin, it remembers the cut, but it feels the pain no more. When thou canst face thy demons and feel no tremor, know this: the covenant is satisfied. Thy soul hath graduated from that class. The third sign is the graceful departure. This is often the hardest for the mind to understand, but the easiest for the soul to accept. Things begin to leave thy life. People walk away. Jobs come to an end. Possessions are lost or given away. In the time of the storm, this would have felt like a tragedy. But in the time of completion, it feels like te bener, a gentle separation from the hand. Imagine holding a bird in thy palm. Thou dost not throw it away, thou simply openest thy hand, and it takes flight. Thou feelest not the grief of loss, but the joy of release. Thou realizest, deep in thy bones, I no longer need this weight to define who I am. Whether it be a title, a relationship, or a way of life, thou lettest it go with a blessing. Go, thou whisperest, and be well. My journey lies elsewhere. And finally, there is the sensation of absolute lightness. It is a physical sensation, as if gravity itself hath lost its hold upon thee. Thou wakest in the morning, and the heavy blanket of dread is gone. Thy chest feels expansive. Thy breath goes deep. Tears may flow, but they are not the hot tears of frustration. They are the warm, sweet tears of washing. They are the rain that cleanses the dust from the window of the soul. Thou needest no reason to be at peace. Thou hast achieved nothing new in the eyes of the world. Thou hast no new trophies on the shelf. Yet, thou feelest a quiet dignity, a sense of, it is finished. It is good. This is the embrace of the heavens. The universe is whispering, well done, faithful servant. Hast thou felt these things recently? Even a glimmer? Even a fleeting moment of this profound quiet? If thou hast, cherish it. Guard it. Do not let the world rush in to fill the void with noise again. This space, this holy emptiness, is the womb of thy new life. The old contract is burned. The debt is zero. Thou art standing at ground zero of a new existence. But remember, O free soul, freedom is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of the path. Now that thou art no longer a slave to the past, thou must decide how to walk as a master of the future. The chains are off. The cell door is open. Where wilt thou go? What wilt thou build with these hands that are no longer tied? The road ahead is paved not with karma, but with dharma, thy true purpose. In the chapters that follow, we shall speak of this path. We shall speak of the tools thou needest to walk in this new light without stumbling back into the shadows. But for now, simply stand in the silence. Breathe in the freedom, for thou hast fought the good fight, and thou hast won. Chapter 7: The Power of the Word. Rise up, O awakened soul. Thou hast weathered the storm. Thou hast stood in the silence of completion. But now, thou askest, how do I walk in this new world? How do I ensure that I do not fall back into the old slumber? The answer lies closer than thy hands and feet. It lies beneath the very tip of thy tongue. We enter now into the path of practice, and the first key I hand unto thee is the power of the word. In the ancient tongue of this land, it is called Kotodama, the spirit of the word. Hearken closely, for this is a law as sure as gravity. Thy life is shaped by the words that proceed out of thy mouth. Thou thinkest thy words are merely wind, vanishing as soon as they are spoken? Nay, verily I say unto thee, words are seeds. Every time thou speakest, thou art planting a garden. If thou sayest, I am tired, thou plantest the seed of exhaustion. If thou sayest, I am unlucky, thou waterest the weed of misfortune. If thou sayest, it is impossible, thou buildest a wall of stone across thy path. Look at the days of thy past. Was not thy mouth filled with complaints? Why is this happening to me? This job is a curse. I am not good enough. These words were the spells that bound thee to the wheel of suffering. Thou wert the architect of thine own prison, laying brick by brick with every negative utterance. But if words have the power to bind, they also possess the power to set free. To rewrite the script of thy destiny, thou must first rewrite the script of thy speech. I shall give thee a practice, a simple sword to cut through the darkness. It is a phrase of immense power, taught by the masters of the spirit. The phrase is this: Ikashite itadaite arigato gozaimasu. In the common tongue, it means, thank you for the privilege of being allowed to live. It is not merely, I am alive. It is an acknowledgement that a great power sustains thee, breathes for thee, and carries thee. I see the doubt in thine eyes. Thou sayest, but my life is hard. I do not feel grateful. How can I say thanks when my heart is heavy? Here is the secret: thou needest not feel it to say it. Let me tell thee the tale of a disciple I once guided. He was a man of the world, cynical and worn down by the grind of daily labor. His debts were high, his family was distant, and his heart was dry as dust. I told him, chant this prayer. Say, thank you for letting me live, 100 times a day. He laughed. He mocked me. What use are empty words? He asked. Will words put coin in my purse? Do it, I commanded. Do it as an experiment. Do it even if thou dost not believe. So he began. At first, his words were mechanical, dry, and devoid of feeling. He muttered them while walking to work, rolling his eyes at his own foolishness. Thank you for letting me live. Thank you for letting me live. It was just noise. It was just habit. But he did not stop. 1 month passed, then 2, and then, on a morning like any other, as he watched the sun rise over the gray city, something broke within him. He opened his mouth to say the words, but instead of sound, a sob escaped his throat. Tears, hot and cleansing, streamed down his face. For the first time, the meaning pierced his heart. He realized, I am breathing. I am here. Despite all my failures, despite all my pain, the universe has not given up on me. The shell of his ego cracked, and the light poured in. From that day forth, his life did not change instantly, but he changed. And because he changed, his world began to rearrange itself. Opportunities arose where there were none. Enemies became friends. The Kotodama had purified his vessel. Thou, too, canst perform this miracle. The path begins with the discipline of the tongue. I ask thee to make a pact with me right now. Tomorrow morning, before thy feet touch the cold floor, before thou checkest the news of the world, before thou worriest about the tasks of the day, lie in thy bed, close thine eyes, and whisper, thank you for allowing me to live today. Say it to the ceiling. Say it to the air. If thy mind says, this is silly, say it anyway. The mind is a skeptic, but the soul is a believer. The vibration of these words acts like a tuning fork. It aligns thy frequency with the frequency of heaven. And throughout the day, catch thyself. When the urge to complain rises in thy throat, and it will rise, swallow it. Replace the curse with a blessing. When the work is hard, say, thank you for the strength to do this. When the person is difficult, say silently, thank you for this teacher. This is not about being polite. This is spiritual warfare. Thou art fighting for the territory of thy mind. Thou art reclaiming the ground from the weeds of the past. Remember the teaching of Onisaburo. Refine thy words, and thou refinest thy soul. Clear words create a clear reality. Muddy words create a muddy reality. If thou desirest a life of light, thou must speak the language of light. It matters not if thou art a master or a servant, rich or poor. The power of the tongue is given equally to all. It is the one tool that no one can take from thee. So, begin today. Fill the empty spaces of thy day with gratitude. Chant it while thou washest the dishes. Chant it while thou walkest the street. Let the vibration of thank you penetrate the walls of thy house, the cells of thy body, the atmosphere of thy mind. Thou art weaving a new coat of karma, one golden thread at a time. Art thou ready to speak thy new life into existence? Open thy mouth, O creator of thy fate. Speak, and let it be so. Chapter 8: The Ritual of Cleansing. Come now, let us go deeper. We have sharpened the sword of thy tongue with the power of the word. But there are stains upon the soul that lie deeper than speech can reach. There are ancient dusts, accumulated over centuries, hiding in the creases of thy spirit. To remove these, we need not just a word, but a ritual. In the sacred traditions of the East, this is known as Harai, the great cleansing. Thou washest thy body every day, dost thou not? Thou wouldst not think of walking through the world covered in the mud of yesterday's labor. Yet, how often dost thou wash thy heart? How often dost thou scrub the spirit of the resentment, the envy, and the sorrow that clings to it like soot? Most men go to their beds with their souls heavy with the grime of the day. They carry the anger of the morning into their dreams, and wake up with it still staining their skin. Is it any wonder their lives feel heavy? Is it any wonder the wheels of karma turn so slowly? I shall teach thee a method, a ritual of the night, that takes but the time of a few breaths, yet has the power to alter the course of destiny. It is the closing of the books. When the sun has set and the house is quiet, just before thou surrenderest to sleep, grant thyself 3 minutes. Lie upon thy bed, close thine eyes, let the breath flow out of thee like a long, slow river, carrying away the tension of the flesh. And in that space between waking and sleeping, I want thee to cast a net over all connections. Picture in thy mind not just the ones thou lovest, but the ones who vex thee. Picture the face of the tyrant. Picture the face of the one who betrayed thee. And even the faceless crowds thou passed in the street. Hold them all in the eye of thy mind and say silently, to all connections, I give thanks. Arigato gozaimasu. To the past, to the ancestors, to the enemies, to the friends. Thank you. I hear thy protest. Thank my enemy, thou criest. Thank the one who stole my peace. Never. Calm thyself. This is not about them. This is about thee. This is about cutting the cord that feeds them thy energy. When thou cursest an enemy, thou tiest a knot that binds thee to him. When thou thankest the connection, not the deed, but the karma that brought you together for a lesson, thou untiest the knot. Thou sayest to the universe, I accept this lesson. I release it. It is done. Listen to the tale of a soul who walked this path before thee. He was a disciple of mine, a man carrying a burden of ice in his chest. For years, he and his father had been like oil and water. There was no shouting, only a cold, stony silence that had lasted for a decade. The father was stubborn, the son was proud. They lived as strangers, though the blood in their veins was the same. The son came to me, his heart hardened, saying, I can never forgive him. I told him, thou needest not forgive him yet. Just do the ritual, every night. Thank the connection. He obeyed, though his heart was not in it. Night after night, he lay in the dark, gritting his teeth, whispering, thank you for the bond with my father. At first, he felt nothing but anger. The face of his father would rise in his mind, and he would want to scream. But he kept the promise. He kept scrubbing. 1 month, 6 months, a year. The seasons turned. The ice began to melt, drop by invisible drop. And then, the miracle occurred. It was a day like any other when a letter arrived. The handwriting was shaky, familiar yet strange. It was from his father. There were no apologies, no grand speeches. Just a simple line. I have had a sudden urge to see thy face. Will thou come? The son stood there, trembling. The rage he expected to feel was gone. The wall of stone had turned to dust. He went to his father's house. They sat together, and in the silence that passed between them, there was no longer the tension of war, but the peace of two weary travelers resting by the same fire. The Harai had worked. The son had cleaned his side of the window so thoroughly that the light finally reached the father's heart. This is the secret law of the universe. When one side of the karmic equation changes, the other must shift to balance it. Thou canst not change others by force. Thou canst not scream them into kindness. But if thou cleanest thine own heart, if thou cuttest the cords of resentment with the blade of gratitude, they will change. They will either soften and come closer, or they will drift away harmlessly like autumn leaves. Either way, thou art free. So, I charge thee this night, do not carry today's mud into tomorrow's house. Perform the washing. Say the words. To all things, thank you. Even if thou dost not mean it, say it. The ritual is the vessel, the feeling is the water that will eventually fill it. Trust the form. The act of bowing thy spirit before the great mystery is enough to loosen the chains. Thou art a priest of thine own life. The bedroom is thy temple. The pillow is thy altar. Cleanse thyself, O priest, and enter the holy land of sleep pure and unburdened. For a clean soul is a magnet for miracles. Chapter 9, Reframing the Shadow. Stand tall now, O traveler, for we approach the summit. Thou hast cleansed thy tongue with holy words. Thou hast washed thy spirit in the silence of the night. But there remains one final fortress to be taken. It is the fortress of the mind. It is the way thou seest the world. For even if thy words are sweet, if thine eye still sees enemies lurking in the shadows, thy peace will be fragile as glass. The time has come to perform the alchemy of vision. I speak now of a truth so bright it may blind thee at first. It is a teaching that separates the child from the master. Hearken well. There are no enemies in this world. I hear thy gasp. I hear the protest rising in thy throat. No enemies, thou sayest? What of the man who stole my inheritance? What of the woman who broke my heart? Are they not my foes? In the realm of men, yes, they appear as foes. But in the realm of the spirit, the realm of the covenant we spoke of, they are not enemies. They are dark angels. They are the shadow teachers thou didst hire to teach thee lessons that love alone could not teach. Think upon this. A muscle grows only by pushing against resistance. Without the weight of the stone, the arm remains weak. Thy soul, too, requires resistance to grow into its divinity. If everyone loved thee, if everyone praised thee, if every door opened before thee without effort, thy soul would remain a soft, unformed thing. Thou wouldst never know the steel of thy courage. Thou wouldst never know the depth of thy patience. Therefore, the universe, in its infinite love, sends thee resistance. It wears the face of a difficult boss. It wears the mask of a critical parent. But underneath the mask, it is the universe asking, canst thou stand firm? Canst thou love thyself even when others do not? To hate the enemy is to fail the test. To fight the shadow is to give it power. The moment thou pointest a finger and criest, he is evil, thou bindest thyself to him with a chain of iron. But the moment thou shifteth thy gaze, that is where the magic lies. The moment thou lookest at the tyrant and sayest, thank you for showing me where I am still weak, the chain dissolves. Thou turnest the poison into medicine. Let me share with thee a story that touches the very heart of this mystery. It concerns a disciple who carried a burden heavy enough to crush a horse. His family had been locked in a feud with another house for 3 generations. Grandfathers had hated grandfathers. Fathers had cursed fathers. The hatred was their inheritance, passed down like a family jewel. This man, let us call him the seeker, came to me with eyes full of fire. They have wronged us, he cried. I must make them pay. I looked at him and said, thou canst make them pay, but the price will be thine own soul. Or, thou canst end it. How? He asked. By changing the story, I replied. Stop seeing them as villains. See them as victims of the same dark history. And decide, right now, to be the one who cuts the thread. He struggled. Oh, how he struggled. His pride roared like a lion. But he was tired. His soul was weary of the anger. So, one day, he made a decision. He would not speak ill of them. He would not glare at them in the street. And in the privacy of his heart, he began to pray for their peace. Let them be happy, he whispered, though his teeth were clenched. Let them be free. It felt like a lie at first. But he persisted, remembering the law of the mirror. Then came the day of the festival. The seeker saw the head of the rival family across the square. The old instinct to turn away rose up, but he remembered his vow. He stopped. He looked the man in the eye. And for the first time in 60 years, he bowed. It was not a bow of submission. It was a bow of recognition. A bow of, I release you. The other man froze. The crowd held its breath. And then, slowly, awkwardly, the rival bowed back. In that split second, the air changed. The heavy cloud that had hung over their village for decades evaporated. The seeker later told me, with tears in his eyes, Master, when I forgave him, I felt a lock snap open in my own chest. I thought I was setting him free, but I was the prisoner all along. This is the power of reframing. Thou art the storyteller of thy life. Until now, thou hast written a tragedy where thou art the victim of cruel fate. Take up the pen again. Write a new chapter where thou art the hero who learns from every challenge. When trouble comes, do not ask, why me? Ask, what is this here to teach me? How can I use this to become greater? When thou doest this, the enemy loses his power. He becomes merely a prop on thy stage. Thou realizest that no one has the power to hurt thee unless thou givest them the permission to do so. I ask thee now to look at the shadows in thy life. Who is the person thou canst not forgive? What is the situation thou hatest most? Canst thou find the courage to look at it and say, this, too, is a gift? Canst thou find the gold hidden in the mud? Perhaps that betrayal forced thee to stand on thine own feet. Perhaps that loss cleared the space for a better destiny. Nothing is wasted in the economy of heaven. Even the tears, even the scars, are part of thy glory. So, change thine eyes, O seeker. Wash them with the waters of understanding. When thou changest the way thou lookest at things, the things thou lookest at change. This is not poetry, this is physics of the soul. The world is waiting for thee to stop fighting and start leading. The war is over. It ended the moment thou decidedst to drop thy sword. Walk now in the peace of one who knows that all things work together for good. Thou art not a victim of the dark. Thou art the one who carries the lantern. Chapter 10: The Path of New Light. Lift up thy head, O conqueror of the self. Raise thine eyes from the dust of the battleground and look towards the horizon. We have journeyed far together. We have descended into the pit of ancient sorrows, wrestled with the shadows of the past, and washed our robes in the river of gratitude. The chains that once bound thee are broken. The fog that blinded thee has lifted. But tell me, brave soul, why wert thou set free? Was it merely so thou couldst live a life of ease and comfort? Was it only so thou couldst sleep without nightmares? Nay, the heavens have a far greater purpose for thee than simple comfort. The time has come to speak of the tenmei, the mandate of heaven. Understand this mystery. Every trial thou hast endured, every tear thou hast shed, every moment of despair that nearly broke thee, it was all a forging. Think of the sword in the smithy. It is thrust into the fire, beaten by the hammer, plunged into cold water, again and again. Does the steel cry out, "Why dost thou hate me?" Perhaps, but the smith does not hate the steel, he is making it strong. He is preparing it for a great work. Thou art that steel. Thy suffering was not a punishment for thy sins, it was the training for thy mission. Now that thou hast passed the test, now that thou hast transmuted the lead of karma into the gold of wisdom, thou art ready to be used. What is this mission, thou askest? Do not look for it in the accolades of men or the accumulation of riches. Do not think thou must become a king or a prophet to fulfill thy mandate. The mandate of heaven is often silent, humble, and invisible to the eyes of the world. It is simply this: to be a light. To be a lighthouse standing firm on the rocky shore of this chaotic world. Remember the darkness thou felt? Remember the loneliness? There are millions of souls still drowning in those very waters. They are lost in the fog of resentment, bound by the chains of the mirror, terrified of the tremor. They are where thou once wert. And who can help them? Can a man who has never known pain comfort the grieving? Nay, his words are hollow. But thou knowest the terrain. Thou hast the map scarred into thy skin. When thou walkest into a room, carrying the peace of one who has overcome, thou changest the atmosphere without speaking a word. Thy very presence becomes a healing balm. This is the ripple of grace. I tell thee, when one soul awakens, the whole lineage rejoices. Think of thy ancestors, the long line of fathers and mothers who came before thee. Many of them died with their hearts full of regret, their karmic knots untied. They have been watching thee, waiting for this moment. When thou didst say, I forgive, when thou didst say, thank you, thou didst not only free thyself. Thou sent a shockwave of light backwards through time, healing the wounds of generations. And thou sentest a wave forward, ensuring that thy children and thy children's children need not fight the same battles. Thou art the chain breaker. Is there any title more noble than this? Let me tell thee of the final transformation. It is the shift from asking to giving. For years, thy prayer was, Lord, help me. Lord, save me. Lord, give me. And the heavens heard thee. But now, the prayer changes. Now, as thou standest in the morning light, thy heart whispers, I am here. Use me. Let my words be kindness today. Let my hands be gentle today. Let me be the answer to someone else's prayer. When thou livest this way, something miraculous happens. The great flow takes over thy life. Thou needest not chase after happiness. Happiness follows thee like a faithful hound. Thou needest not struggle for provision. The universe provides for its workers. This is the state of Kanagara, living in perfect rhythm with the divine will. Fear not the future, my friend. I know the old doubts still linger like ghosts in the corners of thy mind. What if the storm returns? Thou whisperest, let it return. Thou art no longer a leaf that fears the wind. Thou art the bird that rides it. Thou knowest the secret now. Big trouble Dainen becomes small trouble Shonen. Small trouble becomes no trouble Bunin. Not because the world changes, but because thou art bigger than the trouble. Thou hast the tools. Thou hast the Kotodama. Thou hast the Harai. Thou hast the vision. Nothing can touch the sanctuary of thy soul unless thou allowest it. So, I ask thee one last question before we part ways in this chapter. Art thou ready to accept thy greatness? Not the greatness of ego, which puffs up and demands attention, but the greatness of spirit, which bows down to serve. The world is waiting for thee. The person next to thee on the train, the clerk at the market, the difficult family member. They are waiting for a glimpse of the God within thee. Show them, not by preaching, but by being. Be the calm in their storm. Be the forgiveness in their judgment. Be the love they have forgotten exists. This is the ancient covenant fulfilled. This is the promise kept. Thou camest down from the stars to do this work. And look at thee now. Thou hast done it. The chrysalis is empty. The wings are spread. Fly, O beautiful soul. Fly into the mandate that calls thy name. The sky is thine. Epilogue. Walk in grace. Thou hast heard the truth of the ages, and thy patience hath been great. The trials that once seemed like insurmountable mountains are but stepping stones beneath thy feet. Remember, O brave soul, the threads of karma are untied not by fighting, but by understanding and deep gratitude. Fear not the morrow, nor regret the yesterday, for thy power lies only in this sacred moment. Thy life is a canvas, and thou holdest the brush of the Spirit painted with the colors of forgiveness and light. Go forth now, not as a prisoner of fate, but as a master of thine own destiny. The heavens watch over thee, and the earth supports thy every step. Shine thy light, for the world waits for the radiance that only thou canst bring. Trust in the path thou hast chosen, for it leads thee home. Peace be with thee on thy new journey. Thank you for watching, with gratitude.